Hello, class, advanced production for writers. Let me tell you something. We're getting really close to our string orchestra recording session, and I want you to do things in a certain way. So my goal today is to explain you three things. One of them is folder structure. You're going to be working with minimum 3 different project files. You're going to be working with Sibelius, with Finale, with Logic, and Pro Tools. So how do you store all of that stuff without getting all these files lost? So I'm going to tell you how to do all of that just using one folder. Also, I'm going to talk to you about Logic, what to do with your MIDI files, how to export your click track, and all of that stuff. Also, I'm going to talk about Pro Tools, how to import all these MIDI files, how to make sure that the tempo map is aligning perfectly with your music, and also how to renumber bars, how to add markers, and also how to have your files ready for our recording session that is coming up. Are you ready? Let's do it. Let's do it, advanced production class. The number one reason I want to talk about folder structure is because we spend most of our Berklee moment, a career, having and working with multiple projects. And what happens is that sometimes, your hard drive gets busy or super full, your laptop gets also super full. And what happens is we ended up using multiple drives to store our project files. The thing is that then you graduate, and then after graduation, you feel like, okay, I want to use my music for my portfolio. And then suddenly you can't even find the files. So I developed this system, this folder structure that I've been implementing in 3 different institutions, higher level institutions. I've been using it for NEC, for Tufts University, even for Berklee. So this works. Honestly, this works. And I want to tell you how to do it. This is a folder structure. So let me share my screen and show you that strategy. Perfect. So what you have to do actually is just to start with the creation of one folder. So I want you to label it in this way: CW422, and then your section number. Make sure you're having the right one. In this case, I'm using 001. And then I want you to have underscore P2 for project number 2, and then underscore string orchestra, underscore name and ID. Okay, that's how I want you to label your files, please. And then inside one folder, basically what we're going to do is to store our whole world. So inside that one folder, you're going to create 6 more folders. So what I do is that in my first folder, I call it production paperwork. My goal here is to capture absolutely everything related with this project. That could be emails. In this case, we have project instructions. So you remember I created this presentation for all of you, showing you the instructions for project number 2. Okay, I have it here. So in case in the future, I want to come back to this project, at least I know what this project was about. So that's why I have everything in here. Also, I have class notes. If you want to take notes and upload it here, you can use it. You have reference score. In my case, I didn't compose anything. Just for demonstration purposes, I use this Antonin Dvorak Serenade for Strings, Opera 22, in E major originally, but actually this second movement is in C sharp minor. Unbelievable tempo di valse. And let me tell you that that's where you store it, in reference scores. Also emails, if you're emailing your professor, having office hours, everything, whatever you want, you can store it in production paperwork. Also, the second folder is media folder. The goal of the media folder is to store all your media files. In this case, of course, I'm using it for my personal job as well. It's a template that I have. But let me tell you, I ask you actually to bring a photographer or videographer to capture and film you while you're conducting. So that's why it's important to have it over here, everything. So, I use branding in case you have a brand, a logo, whatever. I also use it here as a social media templates, my IGTV templates, social media templates for everything. Also, we have our video clips. So here's where you're going to store your video clips, whatever you get from your friend, audio files, B-roll, photos, images, time lapses, in case you have one, music, sound effects, whatever you want to add. The idea is to have your media files in here. The next one, number 3, this is very important. What I consider the most important one is project files. This is where actually you're going to store everything. So for me, on a daily basis, I use 9 different softwares. So I use Sibelius, Logic, Pro Tools, Ableton Live, Premiere Pro, After Effects, Photoshop, Lightroom, and Illustrator on a daily basis. So what I'm saying with this is that even though I can work in one project and use all these 9 different softwares, I store everything just by using just one folder. So I organize them by music notation and then DAWs, and then I go with my video and then animation and then photography and more like enhancing photography with Lightroom and some vector graphics with illustration and graphic design. That's how I organize it. You can add even Word, Excel, whatever you want to do. You can add any software in here. And I want you to do that because here in Sibelius, you can have your score or finale. And here's where I'm storing my Logic file, and then I have my Pro Tools and Ableton Live. So that's it. Now let's go with exported files. So in exported files, the goal of this folder is to place all your exports, meaning all your drafts, version 1, version 2, version 3, or for example, in this case, I want to have Logic exports to Pro Tools. So I'm going to store them in here, okay? So you just create a folder, call it Logic exports, and you can save it there. Also, sometimes happens that when you're composing music, and happens to me all the time, that you have all these amazing ideas, but they just don't make it sometimes to the final, to the final product. But I still believe that those ideas could be used for something later, for other ideas, for other projects. So that's why I have this goodies folder. This is where I store things that I believe can be useful in the future. And then finally, our final delivery folder. Here's where you're going to store your final files, okay? One folder to store your whole world. And this is it. This is the folder structure. Now, let's move to Logic. So as I mentioned before, I use this Dvorak composition, Serenade for Strings, Opus 22, the second movement in C# minor. And let me tell you that I use, just for reference, actually, I did this MIDI mockup just for you, just for this exercise. I didn't do the whole thing. I just did 10 bars. So I want to play it for you so you can hear it. Something I would love to mention to you is, as you know, with this music, we have a pickup here, a quarter note pickup, and it's in the third beat. So it's not starting right in the downbeat. So as you know, with Logic, it becomes sometimes it doesn't behave really good when you don't start in that first bar, which is, I don't know why. Like Logic is advancing with spatial audio, is having all these new technologies, but I don't know why they don't even add a feature about how to renumber bars. Because when you go to the negative space, you have actually up to 8 bars, negative 8 bars to move your whole sequence. But what happens is that if I want to start hitting the 0, then it behaves weird. So what I did, basically starting in 1. So my first bar is bar 2. So this is not going to align with the score, which I don't like. So what we want to do is actually make Pro Tools align perfectly our bars with our score. We want to have everything aligned. Bar 1 should be in your score. It should be also represented in bar 1 in Pro Tools. Remember that. Okay. So once you have your MIDI files, we heard the music, what you have to basically do is to start with a simple bounce. So file, you can go to bounce, or you can go, you can use a shortcut Command B, which I think is faster. So you go to Command B, and I want you to select PCM because we want a WAV file, and make sure to select also 24-bit in resolution and 48K sample rate, okay? File type interleave, and no dithering for now. You want to make sure that the start and the end matches perfectly with your composition. And of course, in this case, this is just 10 bars. That's why it's very short. For now, just because it's a reference, I'm using this overload protection only, and I'm including the audio tail, okay, which you should use also. We don't need surround bounce. We don't need to add any to music. So just click OK, and then it's going to ask me to store it somewhere. Well, guess what? We already created a folder for this. We don't have to figure out to save it in the desktop or anything. We already have it in our folder, main folder. So you go to export the files, and guess what? We have the Logic exports, and we can save it there. So we already have I basically labeled this in the way it should be. But at the beginning, I'm going to just call it reference track. Okay. So we don't forget reference track. And I'm bouncing it. Perfect. It's completely done. So let's go to our folder. Let's go to our folder, and we can see exported files, Logic exports, reference track. We have it here. And then you can see over here in the information, you can see that it's in 48K, stereo, 24 bits. Perfect. We have it. We got it. So number one thing, done. Check. Okay, second thing we have to do is that we need a click track, okay? So the way to do that is that you can click X, so you can bring all this, and normally it's set to single our mix window over here. So what I want you to do is to select all. By doing this, basically you can reveal everything that is going on behind the scenes over here in Logic. So just click track, right click, and then select create track or Control T. Okay, we have the track is over here. You can see it. And just to double check if this is working with our metronome, let's click K. Okay, let's engage it. Yeah. Okay, it's working. Okay, that's fine. Now, what I want to do actually is to bounce it and to make an audio file out of this. So I go to File, and then I go to Bounce Track in Place or Control Command B. I want to call it click. And I want to add the BPM, 140 BPM. Okay, in this case, great. I want to replace the track and overload protection only. Okay, done. I have my click track printed. Let's hear it. Awesome. Something also to keep in mind is that we want to export this file. So select the region, go to File, export one region as an audio file. Okay, so just wait for the moment. Perfect. So it's going to ask you to save it somewhere, and guess what, we already have a folder for this. So we go to our main folder, we go to export the files, Logic exports, and it's going to tell you the pattern and how you want to label it. So I want to label it as a click track. And I can do it the way I told you, the CW-422-001 underscore P2 underscore string orchestra and name. Okay. Done. Perfect. We have it. Then click export. We can go into our main folder. It's over here. You can see it over here. Okay, our main folder is over here, or you can also see it. Bam. Okay, and we have a click track. Let's hear it. Perfect. So we have an audio track and our reference track ready. That one last thing we need from this is actually to get the MIDI files. We want to get that MIDI information, but what we want to have is our tempo map. So if you go over here, you can select, you can see that we have a signature in 3/4, C# minor, and here's our tempo map. In this case, I just did it for 10 measures, so I just kept it in 140, but of course, maybe in your tempo map, you're going to have some changes. Maybe you're going to bring it down to 132, and you can, you can curve it, you can do so many things. In my case, I'm not going to do that. So how do you export this to as a MIDI? So there's a million ways of doing it, but I want to show you one more way of doing it. You can do whatever you want, but the result is what I need to have the actually same result. So basically you select all the tracks, all the MIDI regions, and then you go to export and then selection as MIDI file or Option Command E. Okay, Option Command E. Fantastic. And it's going to do the same, ask you to save it in a specific place. But guess what? We already have a folder. Yes, our famous folder is here. Okay, so we go to the folder, export the files, Logic exports, and let's just label it here at the beginning, MIDI. So we know what it is about, MIDI. Okay, and let's go back to the folder, and we have it here, MIDI. Awesome. And you know that it's MIDI because, as you can see, .mid. So we did the 3 things that we needed to do here in Logic. That's it. So we're all set with Logic. Now we need to open Pro Tools. So go to your Pro Tools session. I want to create a new one, or Command N, and I want to exactly do the same thing. CW 422, and then the section. Okay. You have it there. And also something to keep in mind is that it's important you select the right location. So select location, and guess what? Again, we have our folder. Your main folder is here. Okay, so go to your main folder, project files, and Pro Tools. Save it here. Okay, you will see in Logic your other project. So Pro Tools. Save it in Pro Tools, the Pro Tools folder. Click open, and also make sure that the sample rate is in 48K. Okay, make sure that the sample rate is in 48K. So 48K. Okay, and your bit depth is in 24 bits. Okay, make sure that you're doing it that way, of course, and you already selected the location, and then just click create. Perfect. As you can see, it's completely empty. There's nothing going on in here, which is totally fine. Now we need to import our reference track, our MIDI track, and our click track. Perfect. So let's start with the foundation. Let's start importing our tempo map. Okay, so let's just take a look here. For now, you can see that our tempo is 120. Our time signature is 4/4, and also our default key is C major. That's what is happening right now. So what we want to do is to import the MIDI file. So you go to File, Import MIDI, or Option Command I. So Option Command I. We want to import the MIDI logic. Select the MIDI file. Okay, click Open, and this is very important. Pay attention to what it's saying here. MIDI import options. So I want you to check the import tempo map from MIDI file and import key signature from MIDI file. Okay, we want to do new track, MIDI track. Okay, and let's click OK. Remember, we're not going to save these MIDI files. We're going to delete them. What we want to save only is our tempo map and key signature. Okay, click OK. Boom. Now you see you have all my violins and all the MIDI file stuff. Everything is in there. But also now you have a new tempo map. We have our 140, it's in 3/4, and it's in C# minor. Perfect. Now the question is, do we need these MIDI files in our recording session? No. So what I want you to do is to just right click and select hide and make inactive. We don't need them. What we need is just this tempo map and key signature and meter. Okay, that's it. Now that we have our tempo map ready, now what we have to do is to basically import our reference track. The way to do that is by clicking Shift Command I or going to File, Import Audio. Shift Command I. Okay, Shift Command I. Perfect. And then you go to Logic Exports, and it's over here in Reference Track. Make sure to click Convert. Okay, and then it's going to show you to save it. Actually, it's going to ask you to save in the audio files. This is how you can track the right location of your project. So you have your main folder, project files, Pro Tools, and then you have your audio files. Perfect. That's what we want. Open, new track, session start. Yes, okay. We have a reference. Let's listen to this. And for now, let's make this large because it's very small. And you know what? Let's make it jumbo. Okay, let's listen to the track. Perfect. So we have our reference track ready and fully done. Okay, so everything is here. Now what we need is just in case for some reason on a click track something happens, or we have a lot of different tempo changes, we already, as a backup, we created a click track. Okay, and we created that and we printed that as an audio file. So let's import that one as well. Shift Command I, but I'm doing it separate stages so you can exactly step by step see what I'm doing. Okay, convert and just click open, and then it's going to tell you the same thing. Audio files, yes, open, and now new track, yes. So now you have your click track over here. Okay, let's listen to the click track. Let's see if it's correct. Perfect. We have a click track. And something also that I want you to do is to actually create a click track inside Pro Tools. Okay, so for now, let's make this both large. Let's color code them. Let's do the click track. Let's do it green. And for now, the reference track, let's do it pink. Perfect. So now we have our click track over here, but let's mute it. And I want to actually just for you to create a click track inside Pro Tools. So go to the way to do that is that you go to track, and then at the end you have click track. Do you see it? Click track. So you go to track, the track menu over here, and then select click track. Okay, click track. You're going to have now a click track. And what I want you to do for now, this one is muted. I want you to, in the Pro Tools click track, to click here in the plugin in the insert, and it's going to open this little window or this little plugin. What we want to do is go to Other and select Marimba 2 accent. Marimba 2 accent, okay? Perfect. So we already changed the Marimba to accented. So now I want you to go in the click number 2 over here and select Other and go to Marimba number 2 or Marimba 2, okay? Got it, Marimba 2 accented and Marimba 2. So now let's hear it. Perfect. So that is working. It's aligned with our printed click track and it's aligned with our score. So for now, this printed click track, let's save it for just for safety. Let's just hide it. We don't need it for now. Hide and make it inactive. Just for safety, we're going to keep it there. Also, there's 2 more things I want you to do. So one of them is to understand something. In our score, as I mentioned before, you can see we have a pickup. We have an 8-note pickup. You can see 3, 4. And the thing is that I want this to be, this is my bar number 1. So I want this to align perfectly with Pro Tools. And that's exactly what you have to do. I want you to officially align everything with Pro Tools. So the way to do that, and this is very important, please pay a lot of attention, is the way to do that is through renumbering bars. So as you can see, my downbeat over here is in bar number 2. Right now is selecting bar 2. My bar 2, you can see it over here. My transport window, you can see bar 2. My main counter, okay. So in bar 2 is where my downbeat starts. But I don't want that. I don't want to start in bar 2. I want to start in bar 1. So how do we fix that? So the way to do that is that you go to Event over here in the menu. Do you see Event? And click in Renumber Bars. And you're going to have this window. So what we want to say to Pro Tools is that we want bar number 2 to become bar number 1. Yes, we have it here. As you can see over here. Let's go in the grid mode. As you can see now my downbeat is in bar 1. Okay. Perfect. So we renumber bars. The last thing I want you to do is to add your markers. I want you to mark all of these. If you have A section, B section, C section, whatever, I want you to add the markers. Okay. Even also for the downbeat. So for example, in this case, I'm going to call it, in film scoring, they call it music in, which is when you start, or you can have, for example, I can do A section. I'm randomly doing it. And the way to add a marker is by clicking enter in the numeric pad. Okay. And you can, I don't know, imagine that we have a B section here. You have here and another option. You click B section. Okay. Done. And then imagine that you have a C section over here. I know it sounds weird. Or let's say A section again. Or A prime. Okay. So we have ABA section. Okay. For example, this is an example. So that's what I want you to do. Okay. So when we open your files in the recording studio, what we want to see is this: have your reference track, having your click in sync with your tempo map, the right meter, the right key signature with your markers, and that's it. And also I want you to make sure that the click track has this Marimba 2 accented features and this, the changes with Marimba 2 accented and Marimba 2. Okay, just one last thing before we finish, and that is that if you don't upload in OL your Pro Tools session as a zip file on time, I'm not saying 1 minute after or 2 hours after or 1 day after. No, I'm saying on time. You have to deliver it on time, because if you don't do it on time, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to record your live string orchestra, which is going to be very bad because it's going to affect your grade a lot. So remember, I'm not going to be flexible with this at all. I want you to deliver your project on time, okay? Even before the deadline. And I want you to deliver it in this way, okay? Perfect, we're all set, that's it. And if you have any questions, please just let me know. Bye-bye.